Joe, can you just introduce the meeting and explain why I am still chair?
Yeah, this is a meeting of the General Purposes Committee of Barnoldswick Town Council. It's been held over Zoom, and as per the advice, we are going to continue with the chair for 2019-20 for the 2020-2021 year, and that's just on advice from NELC. So that would be Mr. David Witt.
Thank you very much. So that's item 1, and we do need to note that. Are we okay with that? Yes, thank you very much. Yeah. So the meeting this evening it has 3 or 4 perhaps substantive items, and we'll get onto those in a bit. But I just need to run through the formalities before we get on to everything else. So item 2 is apologies for absence. Joe, do we have any?
Yeah, Jane Mills.
Thank you very much. Item 3.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike Pierce, sorry.
Right, thank you. Item 3 is open forum. I'm not aware that we have any questions. I'll just turn to Tom to see if there's anything that's...
No questions have been asked in the live stream chat. And Joe, have you got any questions received by email?
No, nothing in person either.
Okay, so we'll note that. We are trying to make it more accessible for people to raise questions in a virtual world, and the live chat is one way to do that. Item 4 is declarations of interest, and this is where any councillors have a prejudicial pecuniary interest in any item on the agenda. So it's a financial interest. Is there anybody here with any interest like that? No. Okay, no. We will note that one. Item 5 is the minutes of the last meeting, and this when the meeting was held on Wednesday the 12th of February, we could put it up on screen, but you know, to be honest, it's that long ago I've virtually forgotten what we discussed. I mean, it's over 6 months since we had a meeting of this committee, and obviously COVID-19 has overtaken us, and a lot of the decisions in there are not relevant any longer because of the change in circumstances. But could I ask if there are any anybody would like to move these as a correct record?
I'll move them.
Thank you very much. And those are seconded. Thank you very much. That's lovely. And everybody in favour of that, if you could just please indicate. I'm not expecting any division on that one. And I've still not worked out how to sign minutes in a virtual universe, but no doubt it will catch up with us in due course. Right, going on to the next item on the agenda. We agreed at the full council meeting the other week that we would appoint a buildings subcommittee, and this is a committee to oversee activities, arrangements, any work that needs to be done at the Civic Hall. And we did have people appointed to that. Joe, can you remind us who they were, and can we see if those people are still keen to contribute in that way?
Sorry, I'm muting myself. Lindsay was on it, weren't she?
Yeah.
Liam obviously can't be on it now. Tom, was you on?
I was on it, yeah. Tom,
yeah, and David, were you?
I think so, yes.
So does anyone else want to be on it?
Marjorie?
I can't see everybody.
Marjorie, are you indicating? Can you speak?
I don't touch this.
Don't touch it, you're okay. You're live, you're on, you're loud.
Yes.
Speak.
I'm interested. I was on last time, so I'll stay on.
Thanks, Marjorie.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? No? In that case, can we agree those nominations? I mean, if there's anybody not on the committee who wants to be on, we can extend an invitation, but we don't want to make it too big, else we can never get people together. We okay with that? Right, so item 7 is environmental schemes and town centre planting. And I know Councillor Tomwick has got quite a lengthy list, so I'll bring him in a moment. But in terms of town centre planting, clearly this year we didn't do the full Monty, and we kept things to a minimum. I think I mentioned at the town council meeting, but I can't be absolutely clear that when we should have had our Britain in Bloom National Judging Day, I took the camera around and took some pictures of the floral displays. To my mind, that the hanging baskets are the best that they've ever been this year. And if we didn't put it on record at the full council meeting, I'd like to just ask people if they'd agree that we did the same, you know, and said how wonderful they were. Any comments on that? No. Okay. Councillor Tomwick.
Thank you, Chair. So first I have a couple of updates on things discussed at the full town council meeting. The path at Letcliffe Park, the extension of the set paved path, there is a site visit organised for the engineers. It's now going to be overseen by Pendle Council as part of the works on the town square. So that should be all worked out soon. Valley Gardens, I reported how the engineer at Pendle is getting quotes for the works. There is a new leak reported on that stretch by an interested party at the park, but that should be caught up in the works that are already programmed with grouting, so that shouldn't be an issue. At Victory Park, the dog walking pen, there's a site visit organised for that, which is just for the engineers. They finished the survey of the land with the drainage, etc. So it's just being brought forward now for the fences to go up where we want those to be, etc. The major thing at Victory Park, which we may need a decision here tonight, is the access track. At the beginning of the year, we had desire to fix up the big potholes at the bus turning circle on the UU access. I've brought that forward with the engineers at Pendle, and they've come back with a quote. Sadly, I'm not logged into my emails on this computer, but it's around £8,000. I think Joe might be bringing it up now. And basically, it's to cut out the damaged section of road which is in disrepair, resurface it, and I think apply an extra layer of protective bitmac on top of other parts of the track too. In terms of covering the cost of this, United Utilities does pay a fee, or is supposed to pay.
I don't think they're paying it. I don't think they've ever paid it, if I'm honest. Because when the money came from Pendle, it did not include it when I've looked back.
Okay, right.
It'd be interesting to find out if they did, if they used to.
Okay. Well, I'm aware that there is an agreement in place for United Utilities to pay a fee every year for the use of that access track, and as far as I'm aware, that money has previously been paid over to Pendle Council, and my view is that I mean the whole idea of the payment was so that there was funding in place to carry out any necessary repairs. I mean, it's clear that they are necessary and urgent, and that there should have been enough saved up from the payments that have been made in previous years to cover the cost of the work. So I think, perhaps we need to do two things. First of all, and I know Joe has already made some inquiries or began to make inquiries, that we should request Pendle Council to tip up all the money that United Utilities have paid. If they haven't paid anything, then Pendle Council should pursue that debt with United Utilities, because they were the responsible authority at the time. And then secondly, I think, Joe, you've issued an invoice to United Utilities.
Yeah, I have, yeah, just before lockdown. No, it was
Okay.
during lockdown.
Right. So Joe's reporting that hasn't been paid. And the other day when we had some correspondence on that, I suggested that we issue a notice before action, and play United Utilities at their own game in terms of threatening to cut them off if they don't stump up. Cutting off the sewage works might not be a very clever idea, but there again, needs must.
I have to declare an interest there. Our house is on a septic tank, so we won't be affected.
There are two quotes, Tom. We need to read both of them out. There were two quotes.
We don't want to be reading them out, do we? Because
no, they're from the same company.
But it's an estimate, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an estimate, but the one's for patching and one's for planing it off and making it. It's a bigger.
Yes. I don't think we want to be referring to precise figures in case it has to go out to tender.
Right. Okay.
And then if it has to go out to tender, we don't tell people how much we're expecting it to be, because otherwise, they know what they're aiming at. So I'm
sending this out to council to give an idea of what the difference is between a patch and.
I mean, but we want a proper job, do we? We don't want to be going back to it in 2 years' time and having to do it all again. My view.
The money is being paid by United Utilities to maintain that road, or should be paid by United Utilities. And in my mind, we should be spending that money to keep it to the top quality.
But we don't have that money though, do we?
Well, but we need to get the money.
Right, okay. All right.
Yeah. I mean, United Utilities could turn around and say, well, we've paid you this money. Why haven't you kept the track up to decent standard?
Yeah.
So, I think there's an obligation from different directions for us to get it done. But I think it's an obligation, to do it as a matter of urgency, because the defects are dangerous, and you can read into what you will, but you get me drift. Okay, Tom, do you want to? Have you got more?
On this? Or,
yes, please. No, moving on.
Well, are we? You've made a motion there for the.
What I've suggested is that we pursue United Utilities, we get the brass off Pendle Council, and subsequently use that funding to do the job, whatever the job may be.
Okay. Well, I'll second that.
Are there any further comments? Jodie, are you voting? You're muted, so we can't hear you.
Sorry, I will just say yes.
Okay. Very good. Well, if anybody is saying no, if you can shake your head vigorously so that I can see you. Nobody's shaking the head, so I'll take it that is carried. If we ever get to a divided vote, I will call a roll call and people can say, in favour or against and things like that.
I do have more things to talk about in environmental schemes.
Okay.
Let's see. So I can't remember how long ago now. It might have been last year. we agreed to fund the purchase of plants for a scheme at the entrance of Victory Park, next to the what is now it's a car shop, garage, at the main entrance of the park.
Yes.
So I'd just like to reaffirm for the Bloom Group's certainty that we are still going to purchase those, given the length of time has passed since the decision.
Okay, so on this one, I think, if memory serves me right, this was due to be done in spring, and was abandoned because of the epidemic. I'm not quite sure. I think, Joe, there were prices from provided, wasn't there?
I don't think they knew what they actually wanted at the time. They hadn't come back with a plant list.
Okay, well, I think that had been worked out, but it's so long ago. I mean, it was pyrocanthus. It was a repeat of the planting around the shipping containers. So, it was doing the same thing, slightly further down the road. So, I mean, it's something that we previously agreed to. Tom's asking if we can reaffirm that. Any comments? Marjorie, are you wanting to speak? You need to speak up, or
You're
not muted.
Not muted, am I not? Right.
No.
Right. Well, I agree with Tom, and I'll second his proposal.
Okay, thank you. Any further views on that? Anybody wanting to speak? No. Okay, are we all agreed on that? Noddings. Chris is nodding a little bit. Okay, I think everybody's nodding. So we'll take that is agreed.
I'll take
Tom?
that back to the Bloom Group then.
Okay.
So the next thing is the square bed, the ram's bed at Letcliffe Park. We had an agreement previously to put new soil in and put wildflower turf down. Just to report that when the work was going to be carried out earlier in the year, it was in the really dry spell. The ground was too hard for the contractors, well, I think it was Pendle Council workers at the time, to dig that up. So they had to abandon the project at that time. I think, again, it's just to reaffirm our decision to do that, and for Joe to, work out when they can be ordered.
Thank you.
Done.
Joe, can I ask, do you know what the current position is?
Right, so I've rung the wildflower people, whatever they're called, and they said it's okay to install in September. I've emailed the two people, Keith and Dave, that you told me to this afternoon. I've just checked, they haven't answered yet, so they're not going to tonight, just to ask whether they can schedule it into their works.
Okay, so the plan of action is that Pendle Council agreed previously to carry out the work. So, they'll do the turf lane and the necessary watering in the first instance. And then the idea is that the manager, people will remember we discussed this, but the idea is that the management is then less expensive than what they would have otherwise have done, because it only requires it cutting once a year and the mowings taken away, and the alternative proposals to plant things in that area would work out more expensive. So they're more than happy to do the planting in the first instance, because it reduces the management going on into the future. Anybody else to speak on that? No. I will bring people in, sort of, just to make sure that you're not doing other things, that you are paying proper attention to the meeting. So be on your toes, Emma. Tom, anything further?
Yeah, plenty. The rear beds at the town square, again, previously had a decision that we were going to purchase or commission features for the 2 rear beds on either side. And I think it's a question of, do we support the Bloom Group trying to get lottery funding for those features in the near future? And also for planting out the beds next spring.
Okay, so again, we discussed this earlier in the year, and we're repeating discussions that we had then. And my memory says what was agreed was that we'd approach one of the lottery funding bodies to see if they would grant aid a scheme. And at the time, we were talking about commissioning an artist to produce some proposals, and then to have a consultation with residents in the town to see which one they preferred, and for that to inform the final decision on what we did. Obviously, COVID-19 again, everything fell by the wayside, so that hasn't been progressed. In terms of the Bloom Group, they are intending, let me get this right, they're intending planting out next spring, so there might just be enough time to get funding, commission an artist, and then get something created and in place, or 2 features, 1 in each bed, prior to planting out. And it stacks up, but obviously it's quite time critical, so we need to make an approach to funding bodies for a start, and then secondly have some sort of exercise to find appropriate artists who would be prepared to do the work. John, could I ask you if your better half could perhaps give us some advice on the latter 2 aspects of this?
I can certainly ask. She'll know, hopefully, some places to go to ask and help with funding, like you say there. And yeah, she knows a few artists as well. I can put it out that that we're offering to, we're going to try and get something going where people can offer ideas for discussion, and I'm pretty sure that there'll be something we can get somewhere.
Excellent, yeah. And when he was introducing this, Tom was referring to, it might be the Bloom Group that takes any funding applications forward, but I think the Bloom Group would appreciate any help that that might be needed to pursue that, rather than just sort of leaving them to find their own way with it. Is that okay with everybody? Yeah, nods all round. Thank you very much.
Yeah. To carry on.
Yes, please.
Okay. So the bus stop, adjacent to the bus stop, at the town council meeting, at the full council, it was discussed about the tall plants. Some people find them unattractive. Just to report back, really, the Bloom Group has agreed to carry out some maintenance there. They're going to do some work to diversify the plants in that mix, taking out some of the taller species that are overcrowding the bed, and hopefully providing a bit more variety. It is a work in progress. Just an update there. Another wildflower matter. Sorry,
Tom, is there a date when that work's going to take place? It's in this month, is it?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, it's imminent, I think.
Very soon. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in terms of the Bloom Group, because of the requirements to limit numbers, gatherings of 6, then the sort of mob-handed approach it doesn't, it can't be, and the requirement to social distance. And because that particular plot is quite small rather than being spread out like the Memorial Gardens, there is a limitation on numbers. But I think that the Bloom Group there's a huge backlog of work because there hasn't been a great degree of maintenance over the whole of this season since spring, and if there is anybody able to help with any of that work, they would be very very welcome. And the other aspect of this is the Bloom Group are looking if people who aren't necessarily mainstream bloomers, if they would gardeners, if they would take on a plot. So for instance, the Forester's Bed, if somebody would be able to dedicate themselves to that without necessarily becoming involved in the wider Bloom activity, and similarly with other plots around the town. So they are going to be making that approach. And again, if any town councillors are interested in helping that way, then their support would be very welcome indeed. Back to you.
Thank you, Chair. Another wildflower topic: the verges on Kelbrook Road were washed out last season, and the Bloom Group is a bit hesitant to try planting it out again the way that they did, spreading seed, especially with the county council still not fixing the drains in that area and the water from them just washing away anything they put in. So they're looking into a way forward, but no sort of concrete ideas as of yet. Just to report on that.
Okay, but they're not proposing to concrete it, are they?
No.
You just said there were no concrete ideas.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Can I just mention, for the benefit of anybody that doesn't appreciate, and John, you were shaking your head at that. Kelbrook Road itself is actually a concrete road, and when it was originally constructed, it's a concrete road, and it's subsequently had tarmac put over the top of it. So it's a historic fact that I expect everybody to remember. And when I'm dead and gone, you can say, Kelbrook Road's a concrete road. Tom, back to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. There's a couple more items on the town square. I'd just like to report that the contractors have now finished over halfway flagging the town square. It looks really good. You can see it through the gaps in the screening there. And as well as that, I've been looking into getting cabinets for the duct that was installed. I'm getting some quotes back from companies. Hopefully we'll have news on that soon.
Okay, sorry, Tom, are you saying that we're going to get duck houses? You realise that this is a very sensitive subject, and we will have, everybody in Barlick and the rest of the world descending on the tongue. Barlick Town Council is going to be spending money on a duck house.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah. So these will be cabinets for the events on the square.
Are we having ducks? Is it the duck herding?
Yeah. I'm sure we can organise a duck herding event once lockdown has ended.
Right.
Ducks on the square.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Can we not have seagulls?
No.
I could have them too. Socks. Right. That's all from me for environmental schemes.
Okay, so just to be clear, then it was ducts rather than ducks. Yes. Yes. Very good.
Or a singular duct.
A singular duct, multiple cabinets, and in amongst there, did you mention, Tom? I mean, we don't know whether that could be funded out of the town square work itself, or it'll be a discrete. We're going to have to pay for that.
That is up in the air.
Outside, out with, yeah. And I mean, it just depends whether the town square work is fully committed. The town square budget is fully committed, or if there's any headroom within it. And just as a reminder, I don't know whether we've got any prices for the additional work of flagging the concrete flag area.
I wouldn't mention
in front
concrete.
of the moving swiftly on. I could see that with the blank looks that we haven't yet heard about the.
Dave, we could just ask something, please, Chair.
Yes, John.
I've not been into the town centre since we talked about having a sign put up, and you said you'd sent that message over to Pendle to see if they could put something up. Has that been done? Do you know?
Yes, I'm not sure if it's been erected or not, and I think we circulated the artwork for it. Did we do that the other day?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know. I've not been up in the town centre for a couple of days. Has anybody noticed if it's
I haven't
gone
seen
up
it.
as yet?
I've only been to Barlett Bites.
I haven't been up
Okay.
yet.
I'll probably be there tomorrow, so I'll have a look and see if there's anything up tomorrow.
Absolutely. Smile cheerfully at the workers, though, John.
Yeah, give them a thumbs up.
Okay. It did occur to me after the order had been sorted out that we could have probably have had 2 signs for the price of, 1.5 signs, if you get me drift. But just have to soldier on if we've only got 1 sign, because we could have had one at either end, and we could have gone mad and had another sign in the middle, couldn't we? However, perhaps Tom, you might be better chasing that up in the morning.
I'll get onto that tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Might be meeting the engineers tomorrow. So.
Okay.
And sorry, before we move on to anything else, can I just say, I know I mentioned before about the workers and the lack of PPE that they're using whilst they were doing the cutting and stuff. I did see something the other day that was kind of worrying, in that they were backing a tipping loader into the actual area itself, and as they reversed into it, they were getting incredibly close to the cafe on a square seats, and essentially the guy was just sat there in his cabin just honking his horn to get people to move, and they didn't really. I couldn't see a banksman aiding him in or clearing the area. A lot of people got up and left at that time, so it's just a question of really they need to have somebody there if they need to do that maneuver to make sure that people aren't just going to be walking around. It's quite a neat and tidy space, and with the seating outside, it's quite dangerous.
Again, Tom, can you pick that up with the engineers supervising the work, please?
Yeah, I'll pick that up with the supervisors.
Thank you. Yeah, you'll gather I'm laying a lot of things off on Tom because of other commitments that I've got. Right, Tom, is that the end of your? That's
all for me on environmental schemes. Yeah.
Okay. I think I've got one to add to that list, but can I ask if there are any others that we should be considering at the moment? And I'm going to ask Joe in a minute.
I've got a list.
Have you got a list? Yeah. Okay. Joe?
Rings at end of Greenfield Lane.
Say again.
Them concrete rings at the end of Greenfield. No, not Greenfield.
Gill Lane.
Gill Lane.
Gill Lane. Yeah.
And then land at Gisborne Street, which I sent out this afternoon.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Right. So if you recall, the contractors that did the new culvert, Tom got them to put a new path in, be by the side of the bus stop on Skipton Road, what we call the Gill Triangle, and we also got them to use some of the rings, the big concrete rings for inspection chambers, as planters, and the intention going back, you know, after Christmas, was the Bloom Group drew up a scheme for a lovely planting scheme which was representing flooding. So it was like flowers representing water cascading out of those planters. However, COVID-19 put paid to that, and there were some daffodils put in as a stopgap measure into one of them, which had been donated by Gisborne Road School and originally came from Salterforth Nurseries, I think. After that, Pendle Council used some of the planting that was intended to go into the square bed up at Letcliffe Park, but because we were going to do the wildflowers, you know, it wasn't going to go in there. So we got them to, Pendle Council got them to switch that planting into those circular raised planters, and the concrete raised planters, by the way. And I mean, it looks very good actually. There's a lot of dahlias there, and it's very colourful and varied in height, and it does look marvellous. The Bloom Group discussed it at their meeting earlier on today, and they'd like to involve residents, and I think the chairman of Bloom Group is going to canvass the area, you know, do a letter drop, see whether she can get residents who live in the immediate vicinity to take on some of the maintenance. And in respect of these concrete raised planters, the rings, the question was asked as to whether, if need be, the town council would fund the provision of plants for in those rings. But I mean, that all needs to be discussed with any interested residents as to exactly what planting would be. I can't see it being an enormous amount of money. There's 3 rings which are 6 foot diameter typically, so the square meterage isn't that great, but you know, there will be a cost, so that's the question. Has anybody got any views? Don't all speak at once. Somebody speak. Oh, somebody other than Lindsay, come on.
Can you hear me?
We can, Mother.
That's good. I think it'd be a good idea actually if they could get the residents to get involved. So yeah, I'd be pretty impressed if that could get going. That'd be good.
Excellent. Any further speakers, Emma? You were nodding.
I was agreeing.
Okay.
That doesn't
All
mean
right,
to say I have anything to add.
Okay.
Testing me.
Look, if people show signs of life, then I will actually. Oh, Jodie, you just showed a sign of life there.
Live.
Have you got any views about this particular proposal?
I agree completely. I think it's nice that residents that actually have to look on it should be involved with deciding what goes there.
As far as the town council concerned, the critical bit is the town council prepared to put its hand in its pocket to shell out a bit of money for it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is everybody nodding? Yeah, John, you're keeping a very straight face there, and I'm trying to look in your glasses to see whether you're actually watching something else entirely rather than the meeting.
That's what I do at work.
I know.
Well, a mask. I'm facing away from the screen right now. It's just a mask.
Excellent.
You could have 2 screens with one on.
Oh yeah. Well, hey, I've got 3 screens in front of me here, as has Tom if he was sat at the other end of his room. And what I do now,
no, my 3rd screen is here now.
Okay.
I've only got 2 on my main computer. It's
right.
awful.
So what I do in the innumerable meetings that I have every day now is I generally put the meeting you are actually in front of me and I'm looking at you, but I generally put the meeting over on that screen. I have my work in front of me, and while the meeting is going on, I'm busy doing everything else, which is really super efficient, until somebody says, "What do you think, David?" And you're just in the middle of an email, and then you've got to sort of think back in your ear what on earth people would just be talking about. And if you're on your toes, you manage to do it adroitly, and if you're not, you look all right. Yeah, anyway. So back to the concrete. We're all happy.
Do you not just have to say, "Oh, sorry, my sound's just gone. I'm just trying to get it back on"?
The last one I was in, Lindsay, and we are digressing and people get angry in a minute, but the last one that I was in was the Outbreak Management Board for the Lancashire, COVID-19. And I was there as the fly on the wall. Councillor Iqbal was representing Pendle as the leader. And because I lead on the COVID-19 stuff, I was sort of attending, but not taking part. And then the chairman of the meeting asked the chief executive of Pendle if he had any views. And he said, no, he says he hadn't, but Councillor Whip might have some views. And it was just good enough that I was managed to move my cursor across, click on the unmute button and say a sentence. Otherwise I would have been caught out. And I noticed that Jo has rushed out of the room, so I'm not quite sure if Jo is rejoining. Oh, she's been for a can. I trust that's non-alcoholic, Jo.
I've just opened it.
Is it?
And it's Wednesday.
Diet Coke.
Diet Coke. Okay.
It's Wednesday. I don't drink on a Wednesday.
All right. We shouldn't have any placement. I mean, I noticed, there were one or two branded cans, but perhaps we should.
Coca-Cola
calendar.
We should be charging for placement, product placement, if we're going to advertise things on.
Milk clock from Furniture Land.
Right. Back to the agenda. Sorry about that digression. So we're talking about environmental schemes. The one that Jo's mentioned, I think we're all okay with. There was a second one in there, Jo. What was that?
The bit of land at Gisborne Street currently belongs to Pendle Borough Council, but it's on a peppercorn rent to the lady who lives at, I think maybe number 7 or something. Anyway, she's got health issues and can't maintain it. But last time she has Pendle, they cut it right back, and she doesn't want anyone to do that again. But it's whether or not the town council will maintain it for this year.
Is this the little bit of land adjacent to the garages?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, those shrubs can be cut back hard, and they'll just regenerate. Well, you pays the money and he takes a pick. If she's responsible for the plot of land, then she's responsible for the plot of land. If she wants somebody else to do it, then they'll do it to whatever standard they think appropriate.
Okay.
And there is an issue with that hedge, in effect, that it's grown right halfway across the pavement, and it's causing a problem.
Yeah, completely agree. It's a right mess.
Yeah. So
it's whether we'll fund the tidying up of it or I send it back to Pendle Borough Council for them to do it, because technically it's theirs.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just looking at the message from John Rose Park.
All right.
My view would be to flag it up with Pendle and send it to them. Anybody, any contrary view? No, we'll take that as read then. I don't know whether Joe's got any more, but I've got one which may not seem urgent, but we won't meet for another 2 months. And it's one that Tom's been involved with, and it's the tree planting up at Leckliffe Park. So you recall we agreed last year to create an arboretum. We give authority to acquire some trees from the Woodland Trust, and I'll bring Tom in after introducing it. So the idea was that we get some free trees, which Tom will tell us about. My angle on it was whether we actually purchase some specimen trees as well, so as to have some exemplars for the arboretum element of it. So, Tom?
Thank you, Chair. Just a correction. We had agreement for an arboretum as well as the general tree planting at Letcliffe. What's happening in November is the general tree planting. I've got confirmation of order from the Woodland Trust, who has... Good question. Sorry, distraction. I've got a confirmation from the Woodland Trust, who are delivering 400 saplings to Jo's office. I'm sure she'll be happy to house those. They'll be arriving early to mid-November, ready for planting out later in that month, adjacent to the woodland at Letcliffe Park. But the arboretum is a separate issue. I think we do need to contact an arborist, which we were planning to do previously. Purchase some proper trees, say proper, specimen trees. I know there was interest from another party to potentially have one of those trees as a memorial tree. So there's that to look into as well. But yeah, so if you're happy to plant a couple of saplings late November, come along to Letcliffe Park. We may still be under social distancing, very much think we will be. But tree planting, perfectly acceptable activity, easily socially distanced while doing it. Come along.
Okay. So is there any further ask in terms of your Woodland Trust tree planting? It's just a case of this is going to happen, and can you put it in your diaries sometime towards the end of November? Yeah?
Yeah, that's essentially it.
Okay.
I mean, I'd also like for the committee to reaffirm its position for the arboretum as well.
Okay. Yeah. Are people happy to do that? Any further comments? Yep. No. Okay. Right. So who is Craig David?
It's the board selector bit, not Craig David. It's the board selector.
Okay, right.
You don't look like Craig David.
For anybody that's watching this,
shattered that illusion.
Sorry, say again.
So Joe's just shattered that illusion for you.
Sorry.
You realise I'm googling this on the other screen now, don't you?
Sorry.
I just have done. Oh dear.
For anybody watching on YouTube,
trying to get a picture across.
In our chat, the reference has been made to somebody called Craig David, and it went completely over my head. But it's to do with my headphones. But if I take them off, I won't be able to.
So it's like looking in a mirror.
Okay, so is that hang on a minute, we'll share the no, you're sharing the screen, aren't you?
I am.
So that's going out live on YouTube now.
Yes.
Great stuff. Great stuff.
I'll stop that there.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
moving swiftly on. Are there any more environmental schemes? No. I think at the full council meeting, Joe, we agreed to the regular planting proposals.
Yes.
Yeah, so we don't need to do anything with that. If there aren't any further points to discuss, shall I move on to the next item on the agenda? Which is excuse me, purchase of replacement flags. So, as you recall, we agreed to replace all the flags in the town square. We're in the midst of spending the best part of £200,000, and people don't like the colour. So the item on the agenda, the item on the agenda is to see whether we take up all the grey flags and replace them with buff coloured flags.
Oh yeah.
Am I correct? Oh, I see.
It's
the Union Jacks and stuff like that.
Can't say Jacks.
I take that all back. It's nothing whatsoever to do with that. It is to do with flying the Union flag and all that rest of the stuff. And I can report the outcome of a straw poll that we took through the Team Barnoldswick Facebook page. And we asked people, and the chairman of the town council, Councillor Tom Whip, held up a 2-yard flag with a 3-yard flag behind it. And we asked people, would you prefer a 2-yard or a 3-yard flag? Now, there was one comment that said, well, the 3-yard flag has got too much red on it, but it had to be explained that that was a red ensign. So I think we boxed that one off okay. The overwhelming opinion was that we ought to go for 3-yard flags rather than 2-yard flags. I don't know whether Joe's looked into it, but I wonder whether there was a middle way and we could get a 2.5-yard flag in case people thought we were being a bit excessive, getting the biggest flags that we could. But I mean, I think there's, potentially we've got quite a lot of flags that we would need to buy because we do Yorkshire Day. Yes, thank you, Tom. I have seen you. We do Yorkshire Day. We do St. George's Day, obviously. There are probably other days in the year. I know when we said we were going to do Merchant Navy Day, that somebody said, well, are we going to commemorate nuclear survivors or nuclear veterans day, which I think is coming up in a little while. So potentially there's quite a few flags. The one on the Civic Hall, I don't think can be any bigger than the one that we've already got. I think that's a 2-yard one, but the one on the flagpole, certainly the overwhelming preference from people who have commented is for us to go for the larger one and to have a 3-yard flag. Councillor Tom Whip. Sorry?
Got a 2.5?
Well, I mean, I thought the 3-yard one worked well, but I mean, it's up to committee really. Somebody's dropped out. Is it Marjorie?
Marjorie.
Okay. You might need to go and do an emergency rescue, Jodie. But Tom, bring you in.
Kitchen next time.
Thank you, Chair. Given that the flagpole is rated for a 2-yard flag, I think we should go for a 2.5-yard flag instead of 3. I mean, it did look a little oversized, but I'd also say the 2-yard flag is a bit small. So somewhere in the middle there would be perfect. I think as well as that, we need to carry out a risk assessment. Oh dear.
I've left a charger.
Did you plug it in?
Yeah, but we're in the kitchen.
Okay. Given that the poll is for a 2-yard flag, I think we should carry out a risk assessment for a bigger flag. And if there's too high winds, we need to be sure to take it down during those, just to ensure people's safety in the area. I can report that the overseer of the East Lancs, sorry, what are they called? The
Royal British Legion Cadets.
No, cadets. Yes. The overseer of the East Lancs Cadets did attend the Merchant Day raising of the flag, and he promised me a list of every day that is celebrated with a flag. So I'm sure the list of flags that we could be buying is longer than you may think.
Okay. On that score, I mean, perhaps we could limit the initial purchase to the Union flag or the Union Jack, just to get up the pedants' noses, and St George's Day and Yorkshire flag.
Are we not celebrating Lancashire Day?
No, because we're not in Lancashire. That would be an affront to every proud Lancastrian. Lindsay, you indicated.
Yeah, we're just going to say, instead of buying, like you say, instead of buying loads of flags, if we can just buy like one set to start with, because some of the people who have flag poles at their either flat or shop might not like the size. Maybe.
Sorry, we're not purchasing flags for all the
Oh, right.
shop front ones. I mean, we've got 170 of those.
What? I thought we were.
Oh, for goodness sake!
People do
it. You mean just for the ones up the flagpoles?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
bigger the better. Get 3.
Right. I'm going to go around the room. Jodie, we understand that Marjorie has run out of battery. Okay. We've been discussing the size of flags, as you do. Having discussed duck houses, we're moving on to how big the flag should be. And, you know, people will be ridiculing this, saying, why are the town council discussing what size flag to get? Well, obviously, it's very important. So I suggested we went for the 3 yard. Tom has suggested that we need to just check the risk assessment in terms of the flagpole, because it's rated for a 2 yard flag.
It's not just that. Obviously, with it rated for 2 yards, it's not as high as a 3 yard flagpole would be, so it doesn't catch as much wind. So a smaller flag flies a lot easier.
Have you been to Marjorie? Sorry, Jodie.
Yeah, I went and knocked on the door, but she didn't answer.
So she's got the charger, but she's not near the socket.
Okay.
Do you want me to go again?
Rejoining us.
Have you got an extension lead? Jodie.
I'll go again.
You've got an extension lead.
Might get a taser. I'll put it on my phone. I'll take you for a walk.
Okay, that's good. And we're showing a bit of, you know, sort of thinking on his feet here. Right, so I'm going to go around the room. The options on the table are 3 yards.
Sorry, David, was that sinking on our feet or thinking on our feet?
Yeah, but I think, sinking is perhaps appropriate. But it has gone 8 o'clock now, so we're past the watershed. Right, Tom, Lindsay and myself have all expressed a view. Chris, would you like to contribute your tuppence halfpenny?
Well, look, the location of the flagpole where it is now can be seen from quite a distance, in probably all 4 directions now, but particularly up and down. So any reasonable size that can be seen will have more impact or more relevance to those a bit further away. So preferably bigger, but I'll take any advice on safety and proportion or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I think the issue with the flagpole and wind speeds is if wind speeds are forecast to be above a certain threshold, we should take the flag down, and so that there isn't the wind load on the pole and we don't have it falling over. Right, so I've got John.
Well, usually I'd say that bigger is better. I think we should possibly stick with the rating for the flag, just because if something unexpected happens, then somebody's going to have to dash up and take the flag down before it gets any damage. And also, with regards to colour, can we have them all sandy yellow, please? Because I think that's what the colour that the town kind of prefers.
Okay.
Yeah, can we do that?
I'm suspecting Yes, Lindsay.
I'm sorry, John, but grazing, beige as saw yesterday.
Okay. Emma.
A non-slip flag. Can we go for 2.5, please?
With flames on.
Yeah, it's got to be flamed.
No.
Oh dear.
Hello.
Sorry, I've lost my muffs. Jodie.
I hope my muffs are all right. Can you get Joe to let me in on my other phone if it's...
Well,
Yes.
You...
Yes.
Right, okay.
Oh, sorry. that's me.
she's charging it. Jodie, don't go.
No, it's fine. It's fine. She's sorted it. Marjorie should be
Okay,
coming in any second now.
Fine.
Okay. Right. Okay. So, Tom,
I didn't have the power.
Did you want to come back?
I did. Just the type of flag. I mean, there's a few options, isn't there? There's the cheap sort of polyester.
Oh, we don't want that.
We don't want that. I think if we're gonna purchase new flags, they should be proper quality cloth flags.
Absolutely.
Did you like the one I bought last week?
Yes.
Right.
It was good quality.
Yeah, much better than Earbies. Sorry.
I don't think they do a red duster in beige though, or buff.
Don't choke, Joanne.
I had a mouthful of
Right.
Diet Coke. There's other types available.
Okay. Just like any viewers, just to point out that we are not drinking neat vodka. This is pure H2O. And
Hydrogen dioxide. Sorry,
yes,
no,
hydrogen
dihydrogen
dioxide.
monoxide.
It's got blackcurrant in it, juice with vodka.
Good.
I just poured mine in my Coke can to make it look like I weren't.
Right. So, flags. Are we agreed that we want to go for the higher quality? The better quality sewn cloth flags, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Are we agreed that initially the replacement flags are limited to the ones that we currently fly? So, it's the short list, and that we refer to the full council the long list that is going to be provided to the chairman, for consideration. We can say, right, we're going to fly flags, special flags on this day, that day, and the other day, whatever days the full council decides. Is that reasonable? Yes. We can't accommodate any deviation from the Union flag. That's been fixed since 1801. And I don't think Barnoldswick is going to break from tradition to have any other coloured Union flag. There may, of course, be changes when the Saltire drops out of it because of Scotland going independent. But I think we'll just have to face up to that in due course. So I come back to the thorny issue of the size. Now, I've got John Rose Parker. Pardon?
We have it on a vote.
Well, I've got John Rose Parker, who's saying stick to the 2 yard. You've got me saying go the full Monty. Well, perhaps not the full Monty, but go for the 3
yard. 5
yard.
yards if you want the full Monty.
No, we can't take a 5 yard. No. 5 yards is a step too far.
You've only got little legs, David. That one step is not 2 yards for you.
Okay, right. Unfortunately, this is all being recorded. I've now got tears running down my eyes. So, one person for 2 yards, one person for 3 yards, several people for 2.5 yards, one person. Pardon?
2.5. Do a 2.5.
Well, Chris said as big as possible. So I think with sufficient mitigation, which does involve looking at the weather forecast and saying, right, the wind speeds are forecast to be too high. We need to, take the flag down. I think that's perfectly possible for us to do it, and we have done it previously, because the 2 yard flag does have maximum wind speeds in any event, and that's the mitigation measure. So I think the majority of the committee are content with 2.5 yards. You notice that this is imperial, not metric. So would those people on the outliers be content to go along with 2.5 yards? Yep. Right.
Yeah.
2.5 yards, up it. Yes?
Yeah.
Good. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the next agenda item now. And how's Margie getting on with the charging? Right, events programme. And you recall back in March, I think we effectively knocked all the events on the heads just before lockdown, because we didn't see that they would be feasible. We are now subject to a requirement that no gathering, indoors or outdoors, should be more than 6 people. I think there are exceptions for things like church services. So we could have a congregation more than 6 people. So we could all organise all our events to be religious in nature. We could invent a new religion, worshipping the Barnoldswick flagpole or something like that. Or perhaps worshipping Old Gormless. You never know. But that's probably not a practical proposal. So there are quite a lot of constraints, and the other issue is we don't know how things are going to pan out. It looks like the virus is on the rise, and that will lead to at least a maintenance of the sort of measures that we have at the moment. So I don't think we can plan for with any certainty about where we're going to be in 2 months' time, or indeed beyond that. So I think we just need to, work out what we're doing in the context of that, rather than, sort of wishing that we could do all sorts of things. Right, I'll just, for the benefit of everybody else, Councillor John Rose Parker has just messaged to say, would we fly flags at half-mast when David wears full-length trousers? So thank you very much for that, John. That's delightful. I would point out that shorts do reach down to my ankles, because my extremely short legs don't allow for any greater length of trouser leg. Can we concentrate on events? And the one that is of most concern to me, because I think we need to do it as well as we can, is Remembrance Sunday. And that should introduce a note of sobriety into the meeting. So I think there has been some thinking done about this, and I'm not sure whether I should be turning to Joe or Tom, but whichever one you think best to lead off.
You.
Tom.
I'm in a Clark's forum and I've been following everyone else's Remembrance Day events. After yesterday's announcement, the majority have just cancelled them full stop. My thought process was we got a member of the clergy to do a service and had the minimum number of people we could have there, but then live stream it. If people chose to turn up, we could make them socially distanced, but not to encourage people to attend.
I think that's a sound basis to go ahead. I mean, we can certainly do the streaming well, given times to get it all set up. We don't have to just have the mobile phone doing the stuff. Tom.
Yeah, I mean, on the streaming of the event, I mean, the main problem at the moment is the internet. If we want to do a proper job at streaming, not off a phone, I think it would be a great help if there was an internet connection, say at the toilet block on the Wellhouse Road car park. That could be done by getting a contract for that building. I don't know.
Okay.
Get a mobile device.
Hmm?
Did you not just get like a mobile thing like you take on holiday?
A dongle.
Yeah, one of them.
I mean, you could, but the speeds wouldn't be as good as a proper broadband connection. Yeah.
Okay.
Is there not a nearby house we could ask about that?
Unfortunately, there's no houses adjacent to the War Memorial.
Tom, would a possibility be to take Ethernet out of the Civic Hall and have a node on the old post office building opposite? Would that give us sufficient?
That could, yeah.
I mean, that sounds doable. Lindsay?
What about asking at the fire station, see if they've got anything that's accessible?
Well, they've got all those microwaves on top of the tower. I mean,
another option is you can get short to long range microwave internet antennas, which you can transmit broadband over a longer distance, say from the Civic Hall to that area. But obviously there is a capital cost involved with that if you can't hire out the equipment.
Okay. Can we leave that with you to explore?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. I mean, in terms of the nature of the event, I think the latest guidance that I was looking at allows the use of wind instruments. So we could have a bugler.
Is yodeling allowed? If we're
no, I'm not sure about yodeling allowed, but I don't think yodeling would be appropriate for Remembrance Sunday. So, I mean, we could have a bugler. We would need, I think, the standard of the Royal British Legion, which is, the one that we have in the Civic Hall. So that's 2 people. I think the chairman of the town council, probably. The chairman of the Barnoldswick branch of the Royal British Legion. Anybody else?
Someone from the cadets.
That's 5. And if we wanted somebody to officiate, I mean, we could have a humanist officiating rather than a denominational religious person, so that it's neutral. And they could, do the Khomeini epitaph, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that would be 6 people, and that's ignoring whoever's controlling the stream, the live stream.
They could do that from a distance, though.
Yeah. They could be away from the gathering. Yeah. And so that would be solely on, at the War Memorial. It wouldn't involve any activity elsewhere, in the town square. does that meet with people's agreement, or you know, are we making a mistake? You know, I guess if we said, oh, it's a church service, you know, you could have.
It's not though, is it?
Well,
If you had a vicar.
It's
yeah,
not church service.
I don't think we ought to be trying to get round the regulations, because the regulations are there for a reason. And I think, you know, there are enough people with COVID-19 in Barnoldswick already. We don't know where we're going to be in November. And, you know, the last thing that we as a town council or an individual want to do is see more people infected. So, you know, let's keep it tight and keep it safe as far as I'm concerned. Any further ideas on that?
I think someone needs to be there to make sure that if people do turn up, that they are socially distancing.
Okay.
Which I don't mind doing. I can
well,
live stream and do that.
Well, we I mean, we might want to put a PA in, so that if there are people socially distanced away, you know, across the car park, you know, or up the street, then they would be able to hear what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think we could ask the constabulary if they would provide support. What about the laying of wreaths? Because there's always a lot of organisations wanting to lay wreaths, and I think people would want wreaths to be laid. So we need to give some thought as to how we would manage that. I mean, we can.
I don't have my hand up.
You know, we can arrange for people to lay the wreaths separately.
Yeah,
you know,
they've been doing it on timetables. That's a suggestion, that each organisation gets given a time slot, and they've got like a 10-minute time slot to turn up in, and it's after the service.
Yeah. Lindsay, you wanted to come in?
No, I was sorry. I was showing Joanne how to put her hand up.
Oh.
Okay.
I can't find it.
No, nobody's using. Sorry, the raise hand function. They're all actually raising their hand.
It's on participants, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you do participants and then you do the chat, you get it in the middle of the sidebar.
Oh yeah, I've got it.
Yeah. Right. We can do a tutorial after the meeting. So is there anything further we need to discuss about Remembrance Sunday? No, nobody's indicating. So if we do some planning on the basis of what we just outlined, that makes a bit of sense, yes? Yeah. John, you've put your hand up.
I did, yes. Just on the thought of putting up a PA system, that is kind of promoting people to join, which at the time might not be a good idea to do. I think, yes, it would normally be a nice idea that people can hear it further away, but it could draw people in, and then people are responsible for their own distancing. And then as soon as you're calling people in, you're responsible for it. So I think really it's not right now with how it is right now. It's not a good idea to try and give people a reason to congregate, just by putting that on for the benefit of listening to what's being said.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment, and I think we'll need to put in a microphone so that we can have adequate sound for the live feed. But whether we need to put a PA in, I agree. That's something that's debatable. Lindsay.
I think we need to make sure that we've got posters quite quickly around the memorial saying that it's not going to be for everybody and that it will be on whatever channel it's going to be on pretty quick, really.
Yeah, I think it will be for everybody, but it's going to be in a virtual world rather than in a physical world.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, you know, if we can build up the virtual side of it, I mean, I'm not sure how, you know, we can develop that, but, you know, sort of have some sort of participatory dimension to it, and you know, I'm just thinking off the top of my head because I haven't a clue, you know, what is possible, but if we could look at developing that. Now then, somebody else just indicated, was it Jodie?
Yeah.
Jodie.
Just sort of linking up with what Lindsay said, getting the information out there and getting it across that possibly younger people would help elderly relatives who would have liked to attend and attended and would have attended to be able to access the internet and access what's going on.
Yeah, that's good. Lindsay?
Just another thought. I don't know how anybody feels, but I mean, pubs are open at the moment. What about asking them if they would stream it?
Yes. I mean, I've some hesitancy about packing pubs out.
Yeah.
Although I do think for a lot of ex-service people, the pub going is a big part of Remembrance Sunday, and you know, and I don't mean this in any disrespectful way at all, but I do know, you know, some of the ex-naval persons, you know, believe in having a tot of rum. So you know, yeah, that could be good. Okay, a few ideas for us to explore. I mean, we're a couple of months off, so there's plenty of opportunity to develop ideas. And I've got an echo now. Right, so are we content with that? We can just move on. And the next, well, it's in the next one, but the issue about the reopening of the town centres is something we discussed at the last council meeting. I think we've got a clear idea about the sorts of things that we want to do, and you know, the concept of having a temporary cover over the town square to facilitate things happening within it, whether that's, you know, people putting cafe tables in and the like, or doing something a little bit more. I think one of the suggestions is to have some markets, which would not only be the traditional people selling goods, but also an opportunity for organisations to set up stall and promote what they're doing. So it could be voluntary groups or you know, organisations involved in other aspects of the town's life. And if we do it properly, it you know, wouldn't contravene the sort of 6 max rule. If it's a market and it's properly laid out, the distancing is there, we're not exposing people to greater risk. And if we did that in conjunction with a covered space, you know, there would be some protection from the weather, and it wouldn't be a washout if things were going wrong. And there was a suggestion at the Bloom group this afternoon that you know, there ought to be some sort of opening of the town square when the work is completed in October, or perhaps, you know, the official opening might be in early November. But you know, if we planned it that way, you know, the official opening could be that market style event, and showcasing what's happening in Barnoldswick, showcasing the businesses who may not necessarily be on Albert Road, but nevertheless could have a presence in that sort of promotional activity. So what do people think about that? Anybody indicating? Some gentle nods. Emma, bring you in.
Give other local businesses chance to show things, bring them back in, and try and encourage people to get out there and shop.
Okay. Jodie?
Yeah, obviously more of the places that are on the periphery of the town being able to be seen in the town square. Using a slight issue with the social distancing and things, but that would be something we'd have to steward to make sure it works.
Yeah. Chris?
I'm not sure. I'm nervous about this. Anything that does give any impression of
Gathering.
people getting back together again. I know we're talking about social distancing, but perhaps I'm seeing this wrong. I don't know. I'll be advised on that. Okay.
I mean, in terms of the restrictions on the size of gatherings, I mean, this area has been subject to that requirement for some time now. And obviously, we do get people going shopping, and they're walking down the street, and hopefully keeping appropriate distance to prevent the virus dropping from one person to another. And as someone who is very close to the whole of the regime that we're operating under, I mean, I feel comfortable as we stand at the moment, as long as things are done properly, and that those distances and all the requirements for hand washing, covering faces, and making space for people is done properly. So I'm reasonably relaxed about it, else I wouldn't be suggesting it. I've got Lindsay next, and then I'll bring John in, and then Tom. Lindsay?
I was quite happy about this, and thinking, yeah, it'd be really good and that, but I'm a little bit scared now with the new restriction that's coming in again. It's we don't know what's going to happen, do we? I mean, it's November, anything can change quickly. And
yeah, just let me repeat, we have had that restriction where we live for some time now, and it's been introduced in the rest of the country. We've been living with it for several weeks, so it's not new to us, it's new to the rest of the country.
Yeah, I don't know.
John, could bring John in, and then
I was in Lancaster today, and there was a small market in a square there, quite happily operating. Obviously, this is come next week, it'll be slightly different, but I'm assuming that they'll continue because they'll follow the same kind of regulation. So I've got no qualms against doing this. I think again, it's up to people to distance themselves. Obviously, we'll plan the market stalls to be distanced, but people are going to act as they do anyway, and all you can do is do what we can to make it so that they can distance themselves, and if we're doing that, then absolutely fine.
And Tom?
Thank you, Chair. I think it's something that we can do now. I'm still very hesitant to put on any events in the town, but in the structure that we're proposing, I think it can be done safely. I'm happy to see it go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, it would be open air, and all the experience is that the virus is more likely to be transmitted in indoor environments, and so that's why the outdoor regime is more relaxed than inside. So let's work up some proposals, run it past the environmental health people, take advice, and adjust our plans accordingly. I think that's the best suggestion that I've got. are we okay with that? And clearly we'll come back to this at our October meeting to to make sure, because things may well have moved on by then. The last one I was going to mention, but I mean there may be others that people want to chip in with, was in terms of the switch on, which I'm taking it as a given that we want to put out the Christmas trees. That even though we might be in the midst of a pandemic, that we're going to have the town lit up and try and get some midwinter cheer, because I think in terms of mental health, it's tremendously important that we don't have a drab winter when a lot of people will be at the lowest, and clearly with other things happening, it just compounds the issue. But if people think that's a step too far, I mean, putting up the Christmas trees, that's quite a big effort, and we would sort of need to marshal people to do that. Dressing the trees is an issue, in terms of we generally do it in the marquee that we subsequently use for Remembrance Sunday. Even if we have a big cover over the town square, for the reopening, all that sort of stuff, we'd still need to have such a space to be able to deal with the Christmas trees, to put the lights on them and do the necessary there.
Use our multiple pop-ups?
Not really, because they're not secure enough. The sides just peel off. So I mean, I don't want to go any further into that, but security is an important issue.
Okay.
I can see Lindsay indicating. Lindsay?
Could we not put the Christmas tree, it's only a thought, so I'll probably down, do you know the two gates that are at the back of the Civic? And we could put like a tarpaulin over there or something.
It's not that big.
No, is it not?
No. And if we're talking about social distancing, if you've got a 9 metre by 9 metre marquee, you've got a big pile of trees down one side. You could probably have 4 people in there, doing the dressing, without compromising people's safe distance. And I wouldn't like to compromise those distances.
No.
So no.
Can we not just store them there though?
No, it's not secure, and you need them in a dry environment where you can actually do the work. We don't want to make, I mean, the job's hard enough as it is without making a road for his own back and making it a lot more difficult. And for that reason, I've dismissed the sort of options of doing it indoors, because it would take a lot of humping and dumping just to move the gear to where you want it and then move the gear out again. I mean, the whole, concept of having it, somewhere, like we used to do it at the Reynolds Centre, but, we've done it on the town square in recent years, and that works from an accessibility point of view and minimising all the logistics. I mean, I'm open to any better ideas, but this is sort of like it's evolved and become been refined as we've gone along. That's not to say that we couldn't have a major shift and do it completely different way, but that's where I'm at the moment. But we can work through the options and see what what the safest way to do. I mean, I'm not suggesting that we should do, but we could get a contractor to come with a cherry picker and put the Christmas trees into the brackets for us, rather than having teams of 2 or 3 people going around the town, with ladders and putting them up. I don't know. I think, we need to give that some thought.
We still need somewhere to put to dress the trees, wouldn't we?
Yes, yeah. I mean, we could knock the real trees on the head, and say, I could see Joe there grimacing.
I need to practice my face not telling stories.
It's okay. Look, I've become very skilled at reading faces, because I usually do the whole body language, but you're very limited with this. And there are a lot of people who would make very poor poker players in a lot of important meetings. But c'est la vie. Yeah. So, we could go down the route of saying, right, well, we won't have the real trees and the festoons we buy, sort of the cheap and nasty plastic ones that some other towns have, and stick them in. I'm obviously not advocating that. That's an option. We could look at that. Happy to look at anything. There's one further aspect to this, and this was asked at the Bloom group. Last year, we provided the globes for the town green, and the Bloom group organised the putting the lights on the globes. And I think from last season, I think there was a will to expand that and buy some more. Given current circumstances, I don't think there's any great desire to have more globes. But the Bloom group were asking, does the town council intend putting the globes up again this year? There's 2 elements of cost. The first element is getting fresh batteries, putting the batteries in the battery packs, which, given that I can't remember how many we have, have we got 200? Yeah, I think 100. So that's 600 batteries, and they need to be decent quality batteries. So that's not an inconsiderable number. But then the second cost is we do need to get a cherry picker in to put them up and take them down, and that isn't necessarily cheap. But I think, given the experience that we had last year, we could drive a harder bargain, because we know actually how long is involved, rather than a lot of guesswork. So the question is, do we want to do the globes? If so, we need to get a cherry picker booked, and I would suggest using the same people who do the decoration in the town centre, because they are experienced and they know exactly what they're doing. Last year we looked at a cheaper alternative of hiring in a cherry picker, but then we'd have had to do a lot of the stuff ourselves, and the operator wouldn't have known what they were doing in terms of the particular thing about attaching them to the trees and what you do, whereas the people who we got to do it were very skilled and confident in what they had to do. So, question, do we want to
could they put some of those trees up, the normal trees up, in the same time it took to put? So the amount of time we got charged for the globes, would that time frame that we booked allow them to put a lot of the Christmas trees up?
No, the shop front trees would be an extremely slow process with the cherry picker, because they'd have to move from location to location. They might be able to get 2 or 3 from one spot, and the great difficulty with the shop front locations is all the parking. So, when we put the shop front trees up on Raynor Road, it's an operation that starts the previous night. We put no parking cones out so that the roadway is clear, and then 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, or whatever in the morning, the cherry picker comes, puts the trees up. We take the no waiting cones away, and to do that for every block around the town centre, I mean, I just think it's a little bit impractical. I mean, we could do it, but I think the cost would be prohibitive. But I did suggest that we did get costs for doing that earlier on. But it wouldn't be a, you know, it wouldn't be a Sunday morning job, I assure you. You know, and I think it'd actually be slower than doing the ladder job, you know, with 2 or 3 teams doing it. Nobody's indicating.
I was trying to save you some work.
I know, I appreciate that. Nobody's indicating. You see, nobody's got that great enthusiasm for the Christmas trees. Come on, it's September. Let's talk Christmas. Hey, we start thinking. We generally start thinking about Christmas in August, so we're probably a little bit later this year. Right. I'm just looking at the chat and see if there's anything relevant to the discussion that we've just been having. I can't see anything. Are we happy to you know, look at all of that in that context? Yeah. Does anybody think there are any other event-related activities that we should be giving thought to at this point in time?
Are we just cancelling the event? Switch on.
Well, I can't. Well, how? I mean, can we do it in a virtual way? Can we? You know.
I just thought we could give the lantern packs out, and I'll work extra hours to give them out so people can get them, and then have a route where you get a Santa on a sleigh and hand out selection boxes and people put the lanterns on, but a route that's small enough to have an impact with people outside, but not large, not like to make people overcrowded. Otherwise, it's like we're cancelling Christmas.
Okay.
It makes me really sad.
Well, I don't think anybody's cancelling Christmas, and it's a good idea. Can we work that idea up and present it to the full council in?
Yeah.
We're meeting in mid-October.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I mean, does that meet with a general agreement? I mean, yeah. I think, you know, the you know, having 3,000 or 4,000 people in a procession is just out and out. You know, the idea about, you know, sort of, you know, going round the houses is you know, worth looking at, and hopefully is possible. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds good, does that?
Okay.
You could stream it somehow, couldn't you? You could Facebook Live it so people knew and advertise your route so long in advance. People would know where they needed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think as much as we can do online, the better, and hopefully, you know, we can get some really super duper ideas. John.
Yeah, Borough Forward recently had that vintage tractor rally where they organised the route, didn't they? And then people could spread along the route for it. So instead of not necessarily having where people go out the front doors and wave the lights or whatever, that, you know, and you've got to accommodate every street, you could plan up a nice, you know, circular route. Maybe even something like how the town bus goes around or something like that, where they can follow that kind of route, and then most of the main roads are covered. Yeah, that works. That idea, that works, I think, fairly well, instead of having everybody turn up to the square.
John, just following that idea through, we could get Paul Wilson
to dress
the Santa, get Alan Pilkington to convert the bus into a big giant sleigh, and then
I was thinking just putting Chris on it in his outfit from last year.
Oh, well, I was going to say then we could have town councillors stood on the
giving
roof
out
of the
selection
bus,
boxes,
throwing selection boxes out left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
Black eyes for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. I think there's general support for that, Joe. So, you know, if we work on that idea,
She's been begging for this for months now.
I've been
Just-
nattering for months.
You've already
Just
started
bear-
on it, really. This is you've already started on it, haven't you? You're doing it in the
I just
evening.
love
Well,
I've already bought all the lights.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, do you remember we bought the lights half price
Yeah, it's
after
sale.
last Christmas? Now they're not spoiling, you know, they'll obviously save for future years.
They're
But
like
we've got,
burning a hole in my pocket. I want to use them.
yeah, we've got the lights, we've got canes. I think we've still got some willow. We might need additional willow, but you know, we've got the wherewithal. So you know, it is entirely possible. Jodie, I didn't know you were showing your nails off then.
Yes. Could we possibly use a Santa to live feed into the schools and give them sort of advice beforehand to each class?
Oh,
So
yeah.
rest from Santa. I'm going to be in Barnoldswick. I want you to come out with your lanterns, but remember to keep your distance. And
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And don't forget, we only use the real Santa.
yeah, obviously,
Yeah.
Chris.
You
Probably the
said
best
you
of
said
Alex.
you said a Santa.
Yes.
I think you were just slightly off message there.
Yes, sorry.
But it could have been Mrs. Claus. You never know.
Yeah.
Can we
Okay.
have a reindeer?
Ooh.
Well, I mean, we have had reindeer previously. I'm
Shall I
not
get
sure that they'll be able to pull a bus, unless they're magic ones.
Well, reindeer are magic, so.
Right. Are we done with events? Is there anything further? I'm looking at Joe.
Not for me. I'm happy with Christmas.
Okay. I mean, obviously, thinking into next year, you know, we're all expecting that we're going to be doing bands on the square. Well, I am. I mean, I'm very pessimistic about the progress of the epidemic, but you know, in my heart of hearts, I'm thinking, well, we'll be able to do this, we'll be able to do that, we'll be able to do the other, and maybe I'm just being too optimistic. But you know, I think we should have a view to, you know, well, perhaps it's going to be 12 months, but who knows, eh? So we don't start thinking about next year until we get a bit closer, eh? Yeah.
Yes.
Right. There is one last thing in terms of events, and that's market, where you know, obviously the market got knocked on the head during lockdown. It is, and we've just talked about, you know, having special markets for the town square, but the regular market is perhaps something that we need to give some thought to. I'm not pushing for us to come to any decisions now, but I just want to put it into people's heads as to how we might restart the market, given, you know, the circumstances where some of the market traders don't want to do it anymore, and you know, they've got a shop and you know, they've moved on really. So Tom, did you indicate?
Yes, Chair. I think there might be a lot of hesitation from stallholders to reopen the stalls, given people's hesitation to go out. I mean, the Eat Out to Help Out scheme did help a lot with people's confidence to go outside. But I fear that we'd have the same hesitation as there was for that if we did restart the market. And I think that's why a reopening of the square event market, special market, would help with that, because it gives people the confidence that the regular market is okay.
Okay.
And if we could incentivize people another way to feel confident to come out, I think that'd help too. I don't know in what form that would be.
Okay, well, I mean, that falls into the reopening, which, you know, work is going on with that. And just to report on that, one of the stumbling blocks is Pendle Council are holding some funds that have been given by government, and also Pendle Council has allocated some funding, but the town council doesn't have any of that funding, so without actually having it in the bank account and the confidence that bills would get paid, I think Joe's quite reticent about ordering anything. Well, exactly. I mean, but we need to get the money. So at the area committee last night, we got agreement that the finance people at Pendle should pass the funds over, so that we've actually got the wherewithal to get on with it. That's just a report, really. John, are you indicating again? Yeah.
Yeah. John. Oh, it's just on the markets thing. If we're putting on a special market, if we're considering that, then we should be putting on the normal market as well, and give the stall holders that option to open or not. It's up to them. We don't want to be saying, oh, we don't think it's right for you, or give them the option. Ask them who we've got now signed up for it. I mean, we've got the fish guy back. You could, if you were holding a stall, you could go, hang on a sec, well, he's here. Why am I missing out? So, they may want to. Sorry?
There's nobody who wants to come back at minute.
All right. There's no need for it because there's no demand for the market to be held. Okay. Well, if that's the case, then fine. But the option is there to put it on if there are stall holders who do want to come.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Can I just report on Lee, Lee Furnival, the fish man, that he is very happy with his new location and delighted with the amount of trade he gets from that spot. So given that he was quite hesitant to go there in the first place, I mean, it's another example of where there is inertia and people like what they know rather than something new. Okay, Lindsay.
Just a quick thing. Maybe we could open it to like people that are at home doing crafts or hobbies or something like that. But the stalls would have to be cheaper, so maybe they can come to the town council for a bit of a grant or something.
Okay, you're not declaring a personal and prejudicial interest on that, are you? No,
I haven't time to do all that.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I think given that we will have funding from the reopening monies, the town council could organise it in such a way that the regular payments are discounted, and obviously have to look at that, and that might be an incentive to generate greater activity, and interest in the market, and then that would develop into a regular market being sustainable in the longer term. So I mean, I think there's some prospects there. Okay, can we move on at this point? I'm aware of the time. We've just got one further item on the agenda, which is the Heritage Trail, which was suggested at the town council meeting. But this is the idea of celebrating our heritage with a series of interpretation boards at locations appropriate to the heritage that we've got. And given that it's gone 9 o'clock, I'm not sure if we've got a resolution at the full council meeting to explore the Heritage Lottery Fund and the ability to generate the wherewithal to do it. So, Joe, can you just remind us? Is that?
He said it was going to be deferred to this meeting.
Okay, right.
Wanted them and things like that.
Well, I don't think there's any detailed planning being done. I think the key things is, first of all, make the inquiry of the Heritage Lottery people, and we've got 2 schemes on the go, which is the major scheme up at Letcliffe Park. It might be a different set of people, but we need to have a virtual meeting with them to find out what the possibilities are. If we're barking up the wrong tree, let's not waste any time on it. But if we can take it forward, let's put some effort into it and get it going. Does that sound reasonable to people? Yeah. We don't have anything further on the agenda. I do want to brief members of the Town Council that are present on another issue that is nothing on the agenda to do with the Town Council. So when we've closed the meeting and finished the live stream, I'd be grateful if people could stop on just for a couple of minutes, if that's possible.
Can I go for a wee?
You can. You could wait until we finish the live stream before you mention.
Finished. Sorry.
Right. So can I thank anybody that's been watching, all those who attended, wish people a safe journey to their kitchen or their toilet, whichever they are going to. We'll end the live stream now, and our next meeting is the full council meeting, which is in October. I can't remember the date, but we'll publicise that beforehand. And given that I won't be chairing it, it will be a much smoother run operation. Thank you and good night.
Was that Joanne running
An
upstairs?
elephant running up the stairs.
Bloody hell.
Well, hang on a minute.
Jesus
Is live
Christ.
stream still running?
It